That word should is important. It could be supposed to, need to, have to. They're all phrases that alert you to an expectation that was put upon you. As we look at those expectations, we know that we still have an external focus. That external focus is always going to be a limitation. When we're talking about self-mastery, we're moving from an external focus to an internal focus. That internal focus is where you are going to know the experience that you wish to have. And then in self-mastery, you begin to live the experience you wish to have. And so moving beyond the expectations is a critical piece to your freedom, because the expectations are not of you. The experience you wish to have is all of who you are at that moment. We continue talking about self-mastery. And today we're going to look at the difference between meeting the expectations versus living your experience. So far, we have talked about how self-mastery is not control, but freedom. How it isn't about only what you think, but how you feel. And it certainly isn't what you do, but who you are. So today, we're going to talk about moving beyond the expectations, because mastery isn't meeting expectations or living your assumptions. It's about the experience you wish to have and are having. And of course, those are going to come out of the other topics we talked about already. So if we are meeting expectations, then we're all in that external focus, and we're looking at what society wants us to do, think, and be, and then we're trying to meet those expectations. We may try to control what we're doing so that we're meeting those expectations. We may try to think things through so that we know what they want us to think. We may think the way they want us to think. And so we do. We may behave in the way they want us to behave because we want to be accepted. We want to be good enough. But all of that is meeting the expectations of society, those expectations that were put upon us. It's in those expectations or judgments that we also had all of those old beliefs. All of that is very limiting to who we are, right? That whole side of what we've talked about over these parts in self-mastery are all about the limitations of this life. And remember, self-mastery is about finding the absolute freedom, right? That journey that you may never cross a finish line, but boy, you're going to enjoy the journey. You just keep opening gateways of freedom, more freedom, more freedom, and it goes beyond what you can imagine. So the last part is looking at those expectations and understanding that when we are working to meet the expectations of society, of family, of others, that we are not standing in our truth and in the experience we wish to have. How do you go about getting started on this little aspect? Well, listen to your language again. If you've learned anything through this series, you've learned that if we listen to our thoughts and our language, we watch our behaviors, then we start to have doorways into the truth of what we wish to experience. So I want you again to listen to your thoughts, and you're going to listen for the words should, need to, have to, and supposed to. And as you listen for those phrases inside your own thoughts and mind, I don't want you to stop them, and I don't want you to change them, because that goes back to the control that we talked about in the first part. I want you to listen to them and accept them and understand it's showing you that there's an incongruence between what the external world wants of you and what you wish to experience with who you are and from who you are. So listen for those words. I'm going to use a corny example, but because I use it all the time, it works. One person gets up and makes the bed every morning. They absolutely love making their bed. They don't think anything of it because they love the feel of getting into their bed at night when it's all made up nice and pretty. The other person doesn't make their bed at all. They could care less about a well-made bed. They don't care how the room looks, and they don't care about getting into an unmade bed. That's just something that doesn't hit their radar screen. Third person, every morning begrudgingly makes the blessed bed and doesn't want to, but they know they should. because they don't want anybody to see their room messy with an unmade bed. Alrighty then. Because all they're doing is allowing their own self to suffer by trying to meet the expectations of people, and who knows who really cares if their bed is made or not made. It's their prerogative, it's their bed, it's their bedroom. So what are they doing there? They're still trying desperately to get the approval from the external source. That might sound a little bit too much for somebody who doesn't make their bed, but that's what the expectation is showing us. I do it because I should, not because I want to, not because I enjoy it, but because I should. Now, some of you may say that you put the expectations upon yourself, but you never do. Expectations are learned. You learn them outside of you, and you have carried them inside yourself, but it's still the voice of others. It's not your own. Otherwise, you wouldn't use the word should. If I enjoy making my bed, I don't say I should make my bed. It's like, oh, give me a minute, I'm going to make my bed, right? Or I just automatically make my bed because it's something that brings me joy. That word should is important. Or should, it could be supposed to, need to, have to. They're all phrases that alert you to an expectation that was put upon you. As we look at those expectations, we know that we still have an external focus. That external focus is always going to be a limitation. When we're talking about self-mastery, we're moving from an external focus to an internal focus. That internal focus is where you are going to know the experience that you wish to have. And then in self-mastery, you begin to live the experience you wish to have. And so moving beyond the expectations is a critical piece to your freedom, because the expectations are not of you. The experience you wish to have is all of who you are at that moment. So let's look over what we're talking about today. As you look at life, you want to listen to your words, right? And your thoughts inside your head. And if you hear the words should, need to, have to, supposed to, you're going to know, that's going to alert you that there is an expectation. You're going to embrace those words. You're not going to change them. Remember, we don't try to control anything. We flow with life, right? We flow with what's going on inside us, and we use those as doors to open ourselves to who we are in truth. And so we use those expectations as an opportunity to become aware of something that's not congruent with who we are and what we really wish to be or what we wish to be doing. So let's open that door and look inside and ask what you would rather be doing. So in the example of the bed, that person may really not want to make their bed. Or maybe they will want to make their bed once they get beyond thinking they're doing it for an external reason. So they decide, hey, I'm going to not make my bed and see how it feels. So they don't make their bed and they see how it feels. Maybe they don't have to do anything with the bed. Maybe they know themselves well enough to just sit down and go, why did I just say should? Where does this come from? And why is it that there's an incongruence around this task? And they may be able to feel into what that's all about for them. When we look at these 4 keys, they're all pretty much telling us the same thing. Whether we're looking at the expectations, the control, the things that we do or the things that we think, we're looking at those things that have an external factor to them. And in self-mastery, we want to move from the external to the internal. And when we move to the internal, we want to step into that experience that we wish to have. So when we talk about self-mastery, we're talking about freedom. We're talking about moving beyond anything that limits us. And so what we're saying is that it's in the external that we find the limitations, and on the internal that we find the freedom. So the control, the need to control the way we think and feel and do, that's a limitation, obviously. Freedom comes by being who and what we are. When we think and we think our thoughts are all that we are, we miss all of the emotion and the experience that goes with those emotions. And so we've limited who we are. If we think we need to do everything, then all we think we are is a doer. We're automatons, right? We do. But it's not about in what we do. It's about that expression of self. It's about who we are, not what we do. And so when we meet the expectations of society, we're thinking, doing, and controlling. But when we stop needing to meet everybody's expectations, we fold into our truth. So may all of you enjoy your self-mastery journey. And if there are any questions that you would like to post, please do so. I look forward to joining all of you on your journey. Thank you so much for joining me. And please visit KristenBomas.com, where you can easily access all of my social circles.